Last night on Kinnaird Avenue in North Belfast, a man was nearly beheaded on the street. Not in Mogadishu or a war zone, but on a residential street in the United Kingdom, as Belfast is part of Northern Ireland. Shortly after 10:30 at night, a Sudanese national, a man who had been granted leave to remain after crossing from Dublin, pinned a local man to the ground and repeatedly hacked at his neck with a kitchen knife. Bystanders intervened. Police arrived. The attacker has been charged with attempted murder and is in custody today. And the victim survived so far in critical condition. He's in hospital tonight with serious wounds to his face, his eyes, his neck, and his back. He survived because ordinary people like you, people with no badge and no training, stepped between him and his attacker. One of them ran home and came back with a hurling stick. It's kind of like a field hockey stick. The chief constable confirmed this morning that their intervention undoubtedly saved the victim's life. And now we hear stories of riots and the like going on in Ireland. The riots you've seen the footage of, and the burning vehicles, the blocked roads, and these are predictable consequences of what happens when institutions refuse to speak plainly and ordinary people have nowhere left to put their fear. I'm not endorsing the riots. I'm explaining them. There's a difference. And a pastor has to hold that distinction. In this event, there was one attempted beheading, one man in the hospital, one accused killer with a legal leave to remain. And as of this broadcast or this taping of our YouTube, there's no statement from Rome, no statement from Canterbury, and we just finished with the Henry Nowak thing. So those of you who are familiar with that, he is the non-leftist I can't breathe. And as usual, big church sides with the invader. Silence from the shepherds. And that silence is what we're going to discuss tonight. And we've discussed it a couple times, but every week brings a new example, apparently. Now, I want to deal with how the story is being framed in the media, because the framing is part of the disease that we face. Every secular commentator, every politician, every broadcaster is having the immigration argument. Some want the attacker's details released. Some want deportation policy tightened. Some want the borders better controlled. And these are not unreasonable positions. Indeed, it's the duty of the state to have these things already done. But today, actually, it's answering the wrong question because it's treating the symptoms. And as long as we treat the symptoms, we're not going to make any progress on the real problem. The right question is not, what is our immigration policy? The right question is, what has happened to the civilization that was supposed to protect this man on his own street? And where was the church when it happened? Because I want to be very clear and blunt about this, because some of you will disagree with me, and that's good. We can agree to disagree, or we can have respectful disagreement. But some of you will say, surely the immigration question and civilization question are the same. And they are not. They are related, but they're not the same. The immigration question is a political question, anthropological question. But truly, we're also dealing with a theological one. And the reason why we're stuck having only the political argument is that the church has vacated the theological one. Paul VI, he took off the tiara in the 60s. And the church has not led in its shepherdly role since that day. Into the vacuum from that surrendered tiara, the politics rush. Sometimes I get criticism. Oh, you're too political with some of your stuff. Well, guess what? It's because the church walked away. The church, by and large, the only time it ever supports or weighs in on something political is if it's a left-wing talking point. In the last 60 years, it's been disgraceful, with the exception of John Paul II and Benedict voicing their discomfort with communism. from time to time. And all these political arguments, we already know what these buffoons in Canterbury and Rome think. All you have to do is pull up your local leftist political party, depending on which country you're from. It has a different name. They make it all about political arguments about immigration, but they never resolve what is root about the question of what kind of order a Christian people is obliged to build and maintain. Did you notice I said obliged? The right category for tonight is not race. It's not nationality. It's baptism. And let me explain what I mean. Baptism is not a membership card. It's not a record in a parish register. It's an ontological change, a real transformation of what you are and what you owe. And when you were baptized, you were made a member of the body of Christ. You were incorporated into something that existed before the post-conciliar church, before the Council of Trent, before Constantine. You were joined to something that has buried every empire that tried to destroy it. And that membership carries obligations. And one of them is this: you are responsible for the baptized around you. The thing is, St. John teaches plainly, by this shall all men know that you are my disciples if you love one for another. John chapter 13. And that love acts, and it shows up. It stands between the attacker and the neighbor, and it runs home and comes back with a hurling stick if that's what it needs. And this is the problem. The buffoons will tell you, oh, you love everyone equally. You owe everyone equal loyalty. You do not. There is an order of love, as Vice President Vance has taught before. And it's a shame, it's to our shame as Christians and as clergy, that the Vice President, as wise as he is, speaks more plainly and correctly about a theological matter than most of the Christian clergy. The man on the ground in Belfast last night had a claim on every baptized person in his proximity. We are family. We are family. We are adopted sons and daughters of God. And that's not just some symbol. That is born in blood, the precious blood of our Lord Jesus. And that's supposed to count for something. It's not to be, oh, well, it doesn't matter what religion they are. Oh, everybody's all equal. What's wrong with you? There's an order of civilization in the West. Thing is, that claim that man in Belfast, it wasn't met, not by the clergy, not by the police, not by the police for poor Henry there last week. Or excuse me, it became news more last week, but no one spoke in his defense with a collar on. They're too busy being synodal. The shepherds were silent, and they're silent about this. Oh, we don't want to stoke hatred. It's not about hatred. It's about taking care of your own. The thing is, the silence is not accidental, and it's not new. Belfast is not an isolated incident, and you know it. Do you know all the people that you know in your social circle? We all consume either news that leans conservative or leans liberal. And in the old days, you know what I used to do? I used to deliberately read Breitbart, and I read Huffington Post. And I figured the truth is somewhere in between these two extremes. But you can't even trust that anymore. It is truly an extraordinary time we're living in right now in terms of who do you trust for information? Do you remember Southport? July 2024. 3 little girls unalived at a Taylor Swift themed dance class. The institutional response was to suppress the attacker's name for days. Said that, oh, he's just he's a born Welshman. And they lectured to the public about misinformation and not jumping to conclusions. And to arrest people for posts on social media. Do you know, you fact check me on this, and it's going to astound you if you don't believe me and you find it out. Britain has more people jailed and fined for thought crime than China. Can you imagine that? The land of the Magna Carta has more political prisoners than China. The Archbishopess of Canterbury issued a statement about community cohesion. Birth, not about dead children, not about the duties of Christian manhood, but about cohesion. Do you remember Telford? The child exploitation networks that were operated for years, hundreds of thousands of children in plain sight, with the knowledge of the government, town council, and the police, and the ministers, and the priests. And nothing was done because everyone was scared of being called the R word. The Church of England said nothing coherent, and Rome said nothing at all. Cowards, hirelings, wastes of baptismal water. And then there's Henry Nowak, 18 years old, Polish Catholic, a first-year accountancy student at Southampton, walking home from a night out in last December. He was stabbed 5 times with a 21-centimeter blade. When police arrived, the attacker told him that Henry had been racist to him. Oh, heaven forbid that someone hurt your feelings, bunnyskins. Heaven forbid someone said a mean word. Well, this poor man was bleeding out, and the officers handcuffed this dying boy. You can just imagine what I would do if given leave by the Crown of England to handle these officers. There would be a blessed millstone involved for their dereliction. The officers handcuffed the dying boy, and one of them on body cam footage said, and it's since been seen by millions, he told the young man bleeding on the pavement, "I don't think you've been stabbed, mate." Well, that's just fine there, officer. I hope you enjoy that pension. Bloody waste of baptismal water. Let's call it what it is. Henry Nowak died on that street without the last rites. His killer was convicted of murder last month and received life imprisonment. But we're lucky that even happened. We're lucky that they didn't just give him a party and double his pension and say, "Congratulations there, mate. You got rid of another Catholic being replaced in our own lands." The Church of England and Rome remain silent. And this is not a silent act. The silence is not accidental, folks. It's not an oversight. It's not even cowardice, although that would be your natural guess. It's the logical output of a theological framework that has replaced the social kingship of our Lord Jesus Christ the King with the therapeutic model of accompaniment, dialogue, synodality, and encounter. And that framework cannot name an enemy of the faith because naming an enemy would disrupt the dialogue. It cannot protect the baptized because the protection requires identifying a threat. And identifying a threat requires making a judgment. And making judgments is what the post-conciliar pastoral mode considers the original sin of the pre-conciliar church. This is Mick religion applied to geopolitics. It has feelings. It has empathy statements. It has working groups on integration and cohesion. What it does not have is a spine. What it does not have is a heart. What it does not have is a sense of duty. And what it cannot produce, figuratively, spiritually, and sometimes literally, is a father. A father protects his children. That is not a metaphor, it is a function. The church has always understood herself as a mother and teacher, mater and magistra. But behind the mother stands the father, and the father's first obligation is the safety of the household. Leo XIII understood this. He governed the church through an era of political upheaval, socialist revolution, and the desolation of the papal states. He did not respond by convening a dialogue. He issued Rerum Novarum. He named what was happening. He said, "This is the condition of the working man. This is what justice demands. And this is what the church teaches, clear, directive, and fatherly." The church that called the Crusades. And believe you me, in this day and age, I'm not actually calling for a crusade. Why? For one, how many clergy could preach it in this age? They're too busy stroking the rainbow flags and filling the house with lavender. The church that called the Crusades was expressing something that modern people find incomprehensible: the conviction that the powerful have a concrete obligation to protect the vulnerable, even at great cost, even across great distances. You do not have to endorse every decision of the crusading era to recognize the instinct was theologically sound. It is the same instinct that should produce a statement from Rome after Belfast. The instinct is simply gone. Today's true vulnerable are the baptized Christians being replaced and overrun in their own lands, hated most by their own people in law enforcement and government bureaucracies, who have the leftist postmodern mind virus, who are more afraid of what man will think and what the news will say than what God thinks. People keep asking why cultures in close proximity produce this level of friction. The secular world has only one answer available to it, and they all say, oh, it's racism. And the one remedy, which is diversity training. Both are wrong. The answer is older than race theory and simpler than any ideological program. A Stoic and a Christian can live in the same city. A Confucian and a Catholic can build neighboring institutions. A secular humanist and an Orthodox Jew can share a legal system. Why? Because underneath the theological disagreements, they share something. Coexistence is not merely possible, it can be fruitful. And what values are not shared? Proximity does not produce harmony. It produces Belfast on a Monday night. This is not a racial observation, because the certain religion that is always the aggressor in this nonsense that we call the 21st century in the West, the aggressing religion is not a race. In fact, it contains people of all races, but it holds a less than godly ideology. It has nothing to do with shared bloodline. It has everything to do with the ordering of civilization. The church understood this for 15 centuries before she forgot it. The Christian social order is not a preference. It is a description of the condition under which human beings can actually live together. Instead of saying that clearly, Rome and Canterbury have spent 60 years telling the baptized that all cultures are equally valid expressions of the human spirit. They are not. It's just simply not true. Some orderings of the human life protect women, some do not. Some restrain violence, some do not. Some permit a man to walk home from university without being stabbed in the chest, some do not. These are not opinions, brothers and sisters. These things are facts. And the refusal of the church to name them is not charity, it is negligence, dereliction. And consider this. In Britain and other Western countries, the people have spoken over and over and over. I mean, the news tells us one thing. The news in the West is often just propaganda. And then thank goodness for BitChute and Rumble and even YouTube, Twitter. Praise God for Elon Musk's help, at least in this regard, for whatever else we might disagree with him. Because the propaganda has cracks in it. And the thing is, if you actually take an actual survey in Britain and most Western countries, and even what they vote, poll after poll, what they want on policy, on immigration and integration, on the character of society they wish to pass to their children, the democratic will has been expressed and has been overridden not by the electorate, but by the permanent governing elite class, which includes, and we must name this bluntly, the ecclesiastical establishment. Canterbury and Rome have aligned themselves not with the baptized, not with the governed, but with the ideological consensus of the global management class. The UN, the WEF, that's their real religion. The people have no voice. A shepherd who has made himself deaf to the flock he is supposed to lead is not a shepherd at all. And I'll note on one final irony before Felix joins me. Senator Marco Rubio and Vice President J.D. Vance have weighed in on Belfast from Washington. American Catholic politicians, both of them, saying more plainly from across the Atlantic what the bishops of these islands will not say from their own cathedrals. And I do not know whether to find that encouraging or humiliating, perhaps both. I'll tell you this, I trust Rubio and Vance to be more Christian and more fatherly than anything that comes from Rome or Canterbury in this age. Felix, did you hear about either Henry or the issue in Belfast?
I did not hear about this recent incident, but I did hear about obviously with Henry Nowak. I followed that one, relatively closely. I do know the situation. I do know about the sorry, mate, you don't look stabbed at me, or whatever it was he said. Yeah, absolutely despicable.
Did you notice how the news has treated the two instances of George Floyd and Henry very differently?
Oh Lord, it is. Sometimes I feel like these things are designed, and I mean from like God almost in a certain way to show this to us, the hypocrisy almost head dead on. The fact that is literally the same. He was saying the same thing. I can't breathe, and juxtapose that with the fact that he was the victim, not the one. He
Right.
was the literal victim here, and still getting arrested. It was just so bizarre. It was evil. It was everything wrong. But then hearing this story is kind of the white pill, because this is something that I've been kind of saying all along. It's like we can't, we've had this kind of, we can't just trust police, apparently, especially now. I've had issues with police all my life as far as I have my opinions on them. I understand that there's good ones, there's bad ones, sure. But this was a different level. This was something twisted. I've never seen this. I've never seen that.
Well, so just to sort of, it's interesting because we come from different angles with the whole police thing, because for the audience who may not know, my former life, I was involved in industrial organizational psychology, and part of my task was screening police applicants, and I have probably over 1,000 applicants that I was a part in their process, and I have a grandfather who was a police officer, so I have a certain affection and friends who are police officers, and I know the difference between the good and the bad of them,
Yeah,
and also and it's kind of like clergy, I mean,
right.
you kind of, even if you don't have proof, you kind of know who the bad guys are.
Right.
It's the same way with the police. If you're in the police, you know who the bad guys are. In the clergy who the bad guys are.
And Father,
I guess. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry to interrupt, but if I might, just to be clear, I definitely understand that there's good cops and bad cops.
No.
I'm only speaking on personal experience.
Yeah, absolutely. No. Neither of us are hurt. Angry at or whatever. Police officers.
No.
We're just saying.
Right.
The thing is, it's just like if you're a lawyer or a doctor, you should police your own profession. Clergy should police their own profession. Police should police their own. To get rid of their bad guys. But what's going on here is not like the dirty cop theme. What's going on here is actually here's a really weird one. It's almost worse, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the dirty cop that abuses the law and uses his position to personally enrich himself, that's a disgusting breach of duty, right? But what's a greater breach of duty? Otherwise honest police officers who are more scared of being called racist to protect their pensions and their frame of the world than a dying kid, right? They didn't even, it didn't even occur to them that there might, I used to say, and I get people mad at me, I say racism is ugly no matter what race it comes from. And these evil postmoderns, they'll say, well, only whites can be racist. Listen, we make up about 13% of the world, okay, white folks. So whatever, and again, you can fact check me, you guys can correct me if I'm off on a percent or two. But my point is, it's not like we are a minority on the planet. So it's like, why is this apparently it's a very shaky ground because people, they quote you out of context and they put words in your mouth and say that you're. The fact of the matter is, I don't see race. I see baptism. I see baptism. And so, and then so someone could say, well, would you treat someone unbaptized, poorly? Of course not. We want to love every human being, regardless of their religion, carries with them the image of God. And because they're God's creature, they are worthy, they have a dignity. But the problem is, and what people forget, it's just like, okay, so if I'm in a park and I'm walking with my niece and she's, say, 4 or 5 years old, and then along comes one of our viewers and they're walking their dog or cat, and, and I don't know, there's a motorcycle drives through the park and people scatter everywhere. Do our viewers have the same responsibility in that moment than I do to my niece? What do you say, Felix?
No.
Right. Because there's a duty of proximity, right? I mean, yeah. I don't walk through the park and, I see some poor little 4-year-old out playing by themselves because the parent took a cell phone call. Oh, here you are, little Johnny. I'm going to go and just, take you for an ice cream until mom or dad's right. Of course you wouldn't.
No,
you'd be going to jail. It's kidnapping, right? No, but I mean, this is just what I'm saying. But people, they don't realize police are supposed to take care of the people of their own community in priority. Yet the law abiding of your own community have got to be who you protect first. How you have to, so yes, I mean, the problem is there's been this erroneous interpretation of what equality means. So we are all equal before the law. We all should be. We de facto, if Bernie Sanders speeds, well, maybe not in Florida, but I was going to say if he speeds, maybe he'll get off a ticket better than I will or something. Maybe not. Actually, in Florida, maybe I'd get off the ticket with the Colorado.
Right.
But the thing is that what I'm saying is ideally we're treated equally before the law. That's there's equality there. But just like I use with the example of walking in the park with my niece, I'm going to favor my niece's safety over the little old lady who's fell off the bus stop. If I have to choose between leaving my niece alone, where if she can't take care of herself, and helping the old lady across the street, I'm gonna have to either take the niece with me or I'm gonna have to tend to her needs, right? So I mean, there's an order of. It's the same way the police have an order of duty, and their duty of care, they have to protect the most vulnerable. And in this case, and this is where leftists and would disagree with me. Okay, so they would say, well, the immigrant is the most vulnerable. Well, with all due respect, they're the ones running around with knives. We're not.
Yeah.
Okay, so and when I say due respect, I mean due respect. There's not a lot there. All right. So this is the kind of the problem is that and it's not just a few bad cops. This is the institutions, the institution of law enforcement in certain countries, the institution of the church in certain countries, the institution of the media in certain countries. Canada just passed, or it's in the process of passing, a censorship law. I mean, where is the uprising? Where are the people saying we're not putting up with this? Where are the police saying, no, we're not enforcing this? This is unjust. We have a duty to care to our people. Oh, well, I don't make the law. Well, you have a choice, though. Is this compatible with your own constitution? You may not be a lawyer, but you can connect dots and say there's something wrong here, right? So there's too many people that are too scared of losing their pension or their friends or getting their family mad at them, and they choose silence. So, I'm actually interested if anybody disagrees with some of the stuff I said tonight, but they have a better solution, because, again, we're all about ideas here. I don't need to be right all the time. I quest for the real, true, and good. If you have a different point of view that you think I missed something, then put it in the comments and Felix will read them. Because I'm human and I have blind spots. But it just seems to me, I'm just getting a little fed up with all of the people. Like, tax money pays for these policemen, right? So why are they not protecting our children? Why are they
Right.
why are they hiding behind their gun, waiting for backup forever while the screams of little ones are heard in the school?
Waiting for them to
Right?
die down so they can finally go in.
And
It was,
I'm more mad at clergy than them. I'm more mad at clergy because it's clergy's fault, because we have not inspired men to live their baptism very well in the last 60 years. I mean, I try to do what I can in my own little way, but it's a systemic failure of the church to properly form young men who will become grown police officers, who will be grown fathers. God love that Irish guy who runs home to get a hurling stick. So a hurling stick, I don't know, Felix, maybe you should call up a picture of it to try to get a Google
let me look
image
it
of
up.
it.
I think
But
I know what you're talking about.
I think
like
it
a
looks kind
giant
of like
nail,
a field
right?
hockey. It's like a field hockey game.
Yeah. Let me hurling stick. Unreal. Yeah. Now, well, I mean, even if this is something I kind of had to learn, because again, I used to be a liberal. I almost said the worst word of it, or version of that. I was a liberal, till about a few years ago, right? Till Trump.
Were you going to add a word that sort of means slow?
Yeah. Oh, totally. But it is
Felix
accurate.
is nicer than I, guys.
Yeah, but it is an accurate description to me at the time.
Well, and it's also accurate to say you are nicer than me, Felix.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. But yeah,
no, that's not a high bar, my friend.
Yeah, all right. So hold on, I'm pulling up this image of the hurling stick here.
Yeah.
I think I got. Oh, it's not what I thought it was.
Okay, stick it up.
Second. These are kind of what they look. Oh, okay. It's that's a lacrosse stick.
That's a lacrosse stick, yeah.
Yeah, well, come on, I had it. Okay, here we go.
There you go.
These are hurling sticks. Yeah. I was thinking of like it looks like almost like a giant fingernail, like a you know what I mean? And you catch the ball and then you can launch it with it.
I don't know anything about hurling. I just know they have sticks.
Yeah, I know. See, right. So
well, I just want to say, if that happened in the street of Texas, that guy'd be gone pretty quick, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no. The point I was making is like even if we agreed on the cops and the cops were good. This is one lesson that I had to learn, is that when you're seconds from death, cops are only minutes away. This is one adage that I think is brilliant. It makes the most sense, and I've never really thought about it. But you do have to be ready to defend yourself at all times. I want to get to the comments sooner than later this time, because someone here made a point.
Yep.
That Mr. Nowak couldn't have a weepon. He's legally not allowed to have a weapon, but the person who killed him was legally allowed to own it.
Had legal authority. And my understanding was, see, again, so I have a lot of experience with Canada, and my understanding was in Canada, the weapons there for the Sikh community are ceremonial, but they're actually ceremonial. Like there's not a sharp edge on them. But I guess if I stand corrected, that wasn't the case in Henry's case. And but that's what they tell people anyway up north. And I once lived, Felix, in an area where it was a 45-minute police response. Well, but yet you weren't allowed. Trudeau at one point was telling his people that you don't have a right to defend yourself in your own home. And they were telling people to leave their keys of the car outside in their planter pots so that they would avoid home invasion.
Unreal.
And what was the other thing they said? Oh yeah, if you get home invaded, just jump out the window.
But guess what? You know what? Trudeau Castro Jr. Guess what? We have the same law in New Jersey. You have a law, like you have an obligation to flee in your own home. Yes. And New Jersey is not the only state that has this law. This is like a liberal, like LA.
So you realize, as a traditional Catholic, I'm against cloning, human cloning, but the one exception I would make is Grady Judd.
Oh yeah.
I'm just joking.
How many though?
See,
how many would we need?
Yeah, Grady Judd should be instructing every church and every municipal police force on how to deal with. His nickname is Florida Sheriff up in Polk County.
do you want to get into these comments because they're kind of spicy, and we should if we
All right, let them
Yeah.
loose. Let loose the
Usually
comments.
we wait a while, but this might be
No,
a little more back and forth today.
no, it's okay. Comments are
So
welcome.
first off, we got to start with Go Team
Go Dale.
by Dale. Go Dale. All right, and let me see at what was 44. Good evening, Wow, Your Excellency. Woo. Do you hear that often, Father?
Yeah, well, technically, yeah. I mean, I don't. So here's the thing. So for those, some of you know, right? So I lead a communion that's not regular with the mainstream churches. We're not aligned. So they would consider us schismatic. We'd consider them schismatic. So I lead a jurisdiction of Catholic faithful, traditional Catholic faithful, and yeah, bishops are. So in the British and Canadian tradition, archbishops are called His Grace, and bishops are called Your Excellency, and I go by Father most of the time. But I get people mad at me because, like on my Twitter handle, just Father Meikle, but I put a little cross on there, and then so just call me anything but late for dinner.
Hey, that's right. But I'm
right. Yeah, not even mine. I'm so original. Or don't call me original Joker.
Don't call me Shirley.
Good evening.
No,
yes, thank you. No, but the reason why Felix is a little surprised is, yeah, I mean, in my parish, then people just call me Father.
I call you Father. Yeah.
But that's why.
You should get more Your Excellencies from us if that's the case.
No, that's okay. Although I'll tell you a funny story about that. We're just going on as a quick aside. So I had some visitors from Illinois, and they were working with the one of the associations for canceled priests or something like that. And they didn't realize, because I sort of toned things like, I mean, I don't. Well, I guess the hat's a key on Sundays,
sure.
but anyway, yeah, when they realized who I was, they didn't realize until after, that I had ordained somebody, that they were saying, oh, we follow this priest and we didn't know who ordained him. And then they realized, and then, oh no, it was you. And then they realized, oh no, we haven't been, calling you bishop. So they both knelt down and kissed which is not custom for, in our parish per se. Right. I mean, it's the office, not you. Right. But so they did that. But it was so funny because it horrified some of the old parishioners. They didn't know what was going on. So I said, well, no, I mean, it's custom. It's just that when you're double-headed as a pastor, I don't, I don't.
No, it's good. It's good to get that. I would imagine. At least it shows that there's people who hold reverence for the position or for the office. Like, all jokes aside, I think it's a beautiful thing. Let me see. Norm says, here and present and attentive. Great to be here with you.
Norm.
Good to have you with us. Always good. All right. Now, Tommy says, I can't speak for the Catholic Church as a whole, but I'm from Belfast, just around the corner from where that poor man was attacked. Our father in Holy Cross Church, Father Troy, is a legend.
That's awesome. Well, that's good, Tommy. So, yeah, I don't mean to condemn not at all. I'm talking about, there's many good priests, right? There's many good priests in the Novus Ordo, in all the various traditional groups, and it's the malaise. So what happens is the good priests sort of keep their head down with all this politics stuff, and I bet you anything, you ask Father Troy and what he thinks of the synodality and stuff, and you'll probably, if you're friends with him, he'll tell you, I don't bother with that. I'm just going to take care of my people. And that's what the good priests just say in this age. So no, I'm talking about these big churches who weigh in on political matters and all this stuff. They tell every other government what to do. Well, they don't tell leftist governments what to do. They tell any government who's non-left what to do, and yet they won't speak up for their own people and just simply say, we want us to be able to welcome and treat with respect the immigrants with corporal works of mercy and with charity. That's perfectly fine. But that in Christian lands, we expect the people to assimilate to Christian values. And I think we have to be a little more assertive in that demand, because there's one of the things you have happen, I'm pretty sure, and Tommy can tell us if he'd like, but I suspect what he has going on in Ireland is similar to what's going on in England and Canada and some states in the US, where there's two-tier sentencing. Now they talk about two-tier policing, but before two-tier policing was sort of a topic to talk about, they talk about two-tier sentences. So I'll use Canada as an example just because it's an easy neutral one. So if you're a newcomer and you commit a crime, like, for example, run over somebody and drag them to the street halfway through the street, which happened, by the way, instead of, if you were a person like Tommy or me, you'd probably be going to, prison for a very long time. Best case manslaughter, very possible some type of murder. And especially if you tried to evade the police and responsibility for it, and you drove with the poor victim under the car for a while instead of stopping and putting them inside and taking them to the hospital or doing something to help. But in Canada's case, when this happened, and again, you guys can look this stuff up, what happened was the newcomers were given only like a year in prison, and then allowed to have their residency permit expire, and they were just sent home. So something, there's two tiers, right? Oh, well, they can't understand because of their culture. Oh, that's okay if your girlfriend was attacked by a gang of, 6 guys. That's all right. That's their culture. We have to be welcoming to the. No, if you come to our lands, then you better know what the laws are, or we should throw the book at you. There's no accommodation. The accommodation is if you're going to row your little boat ashore, or you're going to fly in here and take all this free money, then at the very minimum, you can try to keep your nose clean and be a contributive sentence. And, maybe give thanks to the God that allowed this to happen, not your silly false one. But then again, I'll get in trouble for saying that. But see, it just gets me upset because there's the people that are willing to stand are fewer and fewer. Or they were. I would say that some of the stuff is waking people up. So what do you think, Felix? Do you think people are waking up?
Absolutely. I think we've been starting to wake up for a while. I think when I came into the church because I woke up. So this has been been a trickle, but it's slow and then sudden. So what I think we're going to see, there's going to be a massive swing of the pendulum. This is what my fear is. You're going to see a moment of righteous justice, and then it's going to swing all the way to the other end where people are now going to put any old, like where white people are, and there's going to be angry white people who are straight up just going to be racist against any black person that they meet or Muslim or anything like that. As a defense. And that's what I'm saying. Fear. That's going to be the other extreme. Yeah.
That's why I'm trying to harp on baptism and not on color, right? But see, here's the problem. And even then, that doesn't mean, when I talk about duties of baptism, that doesn't mean that gives you license to be mean to people that aren't baptized or uncharitable to people that are unbaptized. What I'm saying is you have a duty of care to your own. Like, you know what? You have a natural law duty of care to your own people in your own community. So let's take religion completely out of it. You have a duty of care to the person on your street. That if someone from a neighboring town came in and was, dumping garbage on the lawn, then, the community should be saying, hey, you guys can't do that, right? And give them a little bit of resistance. I'm not talking about hurting anybody or any kind of violence. We don't want that. Unless it's in self-defense and unless you're protecting an innocent. But see, that sometimes has to happen. I'm very proud of those people in Belfast. I wish I could say that every community, let's contrast what happened in Belfast with what happened on that subway car with that poor little Ukrainian young woman. Yeah. In which city was that anyway? Was that New York or no? It was which city was that?
I think it was North Carolina, one of the Carolinas. It was maybe even Raleigh. Yeah. But it was in the Carolina. Yeah, absolutely horrible how that was treated.
So the Irish, see, I would say, and I bet you Tommy will agree with me on this. Of all the countries to try to mess it up with, like the Irish have been through so much the last 100 years. The people are not a cowardly people. So, I mean, the thing is that they're not going to roll over and take it. I can't imagine, at least unless something's really changed that much in the last, say, 30 or 40 years. So, and I've seen Canada change that much. So I don't know. But I'm hoping this will kind of wake people up. And it seems that some of the younger people aren't going to put up with it. So it's sort of like my age, maybe a generation younger, are kind of, they just don't want any trouble. you know.
Well,
But the problem is that it's the really young are inheriting a world that doesn't work. Like I mean, it always had its struggles, but you never had to worry about your kid getting, like, I think of poor Henry parents, right?
yeah,
I mean, here's the kid, he was going to graduate, he was going to have a family, he was going to, all this stuff.
he's
And
doing
that's
the right
all,
things.
and for nothing, for nothing.
Yeah,
There was no,
yeah.
it wasn't even like there was it's like today, there was the sentencing of, what's his face, or not the sentencing, the jury verdict
The
in
verdict for Carmelo Anthony.
Carmelo Anthony. And I mean, and the people are all ready to riot. And someone pointed out, and they're right, if you were a person of Carmelo's race, you should be as upset as everybody else is. In other words, it's not a race thing; it's a baptized thing, or it's a citizen thing, right?
Yeah.
So there's different sort of circles, concentric circles of membership, right? So not everybody who's a citizen is baptized, but the people that are citizens and permanent residents, then obviously if it's an outsider, then, or someone that doesn't understand the culture, you should be, again, there's no need to be mean to anybody, but there's a certain duty to care for your own family. And then also in the case of this poor the victim of Carmelo, his teammates, right? His teammates, I think they did try,
Yeah.
given the constraints of their circumstance. They asked the fellow to leave several times. I mean, what else could you do?
And they're teenagers not expecting this lunatic to stab them in the chest.
Right.
I've seen clips where you'll see the outright racism on the black side, if I could say it so boldly, but they're like, oh well, he's one of ours, it don't matter. Right. You can find these clips, folks. Well, I'm not making this up.
To be fair, and that's why I repeat again, I don't believe that that's the way that we want to be sorting things out, because the fact of the matter is, it really boils down to, are you, like, and I say, you don't even have to be Christian to share compatible values, but there are certain groups that are very incompatible, and no one wants to be honest and say it, right? Like, there's a big difference between some guy, let's say, there's lots of crazy religions out there, right? But there's some that they just keep to themselves. They're not going to be any harm to you. And then there are some that have right in their doctrine that they must take over the social order.
Right.
So, and I only know of one. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that religion is incompatible to Christian lands. And they're fine in low population density, because they just want to be left alone. But it seems, and there's been whole books written on this very topic, once it hits a certain critical mass, they start demanding their own laws. They start claiming that, we disadvantage them unfairly and use our laws against them. And enough is enough. If you're going to come here, you play by our rules. And if you can't, there's a boat. There's a Leering Center for you that you can get educated enough, get on the C-130 and head back home.
That's right. That's right. Wow. Yeah, the comments are coming in. This is awesome. Okay, let me see what we got. So, Father Haygood, or Archbishop Haygood.
There, Monsignor.
Also, Your Excellency, correct? Did I remember that correctly? Do we refer to him as Your Excellency?
He's of English origin, so you'd probably say Your Grace. So
Your Grace.
So in America, but also Monsignor's fine, and I'm sure he doesn't mind Father either.
Yeah, no, he said before he doesn't mind. That's why I call him Father Haygood, because he said that was cool. Here we go. What was 44? I don't think you are, mate. Yeah.
Now, please do not take me out of context. This is one of these things. Okay, so I'm just gonna. This is okay. So apparently it was saying there was protests. Again, I'm not condoning. They weren't throwing anything. Like, they weren't throwing bricks. When right wingers or non-leftists throw stuff, and they shouldn't be throwing anything, but they're not throwing bricks typically. So what happens is, my understanding was they're throwing empty trash cans or something at some of the law enforcement, and that's wrong. But again, a piece of plastic hopefully is not going to cause injury. It's not like a bottle of water with ice, made with ice. But anyway, so they're throwing this, and then someone was saying, who hit me with that trash can? I was hit with a trash can. I don't think you are, mate. That's what people were answering back, right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
So again, I'm not condoning it, but it is. It is kind of
But
funny.
and look, this is what these are the thoughts in my head now. And of course, I have to pre-qualify this because this is a little spicy. I am not calling for violence in any capacity
Right.
at all. Okay, just to
Good.
be 100% clear.
Absolutely.
However, all right, now that being said, just to go when I see this story, like I almost feel like if those police officers, and again, I'm not wishing for this. I'm just thinking
Yeah.
is like eventually what's going to happen is one of these police officers are going to be made an example of by the public, and it can be very brutal when you really tip the scales in anger when you get
Well,
to mob mentality in the
I'll
public.
push back on you a little bit. So I think
Please.
I'll think, and if someone's from, again, we have a fellow from Belfast there. He'll understand the culture over there better than you or I will, Felix. But
Yeah.
my experience with people that are non-leftists is that they respect law and order even if they disagree with it. At least to an extent. So, but I mean,
Well,
there
the
are
revolution.
exceptions. There are exceptions. So, I mean,
Yeah.
what I would say that if you were a
I think there's a
non-leftist,
limit, break father.
I use the word non-leftist very deliberately because
Yes.
I don't consider myself a member of any, political group or whatever. I just say I'm
Same.
non-leftist because non-leftist keeps it just means that we're not into this Marxist stuff, we're not into this postmodern stuff, not into this woke stuff. So that sort of keeps the tent big without worrying about what the alternative is necessarily. But I would say that I think where you can, people that are non-left are going to respect someone in uniform. And so the thing is, and the same with military people, right? So I'm ex-military. Well, you are too, Felix, for that matter. Ex-military people typically. So there's a guy named what's his name, Rudyard. You know what I mean? He does the What If Alt Hist channel. He does this historical scenarios.
Oh,
And he does
no. The name sounds familiar, the channel, but not
I
the
can't
name.
remember Rudyard's last name offhand. It might be Lynch. I don't know. I can't remember his name. But anyway, this young man is very brilliant with his history.
Rudyard
And
Lynch.
he was asked years ago before while it was still in the Biden years, and he was predicting a civil war in the U.S. And then he was asked by the commentator, well, who's going to win it? And he says it all depends on one thing. All depends on one thing: which side the military sides with, and it will side with the side it perceives to be most law-abiding. So in the American culture, right? So this is what's going on in the U.S. and Canada, or excuse me, the U.K. and Canada. If anecdotally, so I can't. Again, we have someone who's actually from there who knows more than I do. But from what I'm observed in like retired military YouTubers, right, from the various countries, is that a lot of people in Canada who think like I do, and in the UK that think like I do, and about my age, they've all just retired. Like they retire when they can because they don't want to be any part of this woke stuff, pronouns in their emails and crap like that. And so they left because it was no longer the military they joined. And then now we're seeing the instrument of the state being used against ordinary people and failing to protect ordinary people. So this is the police have a real issue. You can, what? It doesn't matter whether you generally love or inclined to love or distrust police. We can all empathize that they're between a rock and a hard place because the leftists don't trust them. They consider them an instrument of the state and oppression. And the right doesn't trust them anymore because in the UK they've been arresting pensioners for Facebook posts.
There you go.
So we don't have that problem. We don't have that problem in Tampa Bay. Like, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, typically, there's nobody who's non-leftist that doesn't love the police. There might be an individual cop you don't like, but I mean, as I say, if I could make Grady Judd sheriff everywhere, I would.
I'll say this, Father, in Florida, let me amend that. In this area where I currently live, the cops have been outstanding. Actually, you know what? It's funny you said that. Like, and at least and for me that means I haven't had a negative experience. Now, almost all my negative experience, there are some that I think is my fault, but there are definitely some that are, I will probably argue to the death were not my fault. But that's not this episode.
There's a local sheriff's department, so I have sort of encounters all in a good way with 4 different sheriff's departments down here. And there's one of those departments that has a weekly meeting. And one of the agenda items that's hardwired into their agenda item, like their command meeting, is there any threat from any external agency to the constitutional rights of the people we serve? And I thought, wow, that's pretty incredible, because if it was state overreach or federal overreach within the bounds of law, it would be addressed. So that is an example of a police force that's trying to serve its local community. And so that's kind of neat.
Yeah. All right. Now let's I'll tell you what, actually, before we do that, to kind of what we saw in Belfast, like you said, like these people are coming to jump in. I think that's kind of like the first step, and of what my theory is, because I agree with you. We respect, or non-leftists respect police, at least respect police officers and respect
until they do something to breach trust, right? So, for example, in Ottawa,
trust.
In Ottawa, there was a trucker protest, which if you guys don't know about it, I encourage you to look into it. It's a very interesting,
great story.
But there was a point where the police horses trampled disabled women, right? There was this poor woman was knocked, and they laughed about it. So, there's an example. See, all it takes is for that to be on air. And now, again, there would be a lot of so if I was living in Ottawa, I know it's only one bad police officer, but I'll tell you right now, I would be very, if that officer wasn't publicly disciplined and removed, I don't imagine I would have a very pleasant attitude towards an Ottawa police officer. Whereas in general, I do I've had, like I say, I used to help hire them. I've only had positive experiences in everywhere I've lived, in 2 countries and 4 provinces and 2 states. I've never had anything but professionalism. But unfortunately, YouTube shows us the odd guy that doesn't. Right.
Right now, let's see. What do we have here? Father Haga says, I hate to throw in a plug for the English Catholic Church, but the truth is we are fighting this battle on the ground.
Well, that's good.
Well, that's right. Now, what was 44? This was this is our friend from where was he from? From Belfast?
Nope. This is a friend from Canada, I believe. So, what's
that's right.
Going on, and actually, we'll probably do this might be even worth a whole show at some point. So, because who did it? There was someone actually did jeepers. I think it was Anthony Stein. Anthony Stein did something that Canada's only one step from criminalizing the whole Bible. So, yes, Canada's Bill C9 is definitely a step towards the Bible to be considered hate speech, and it is definitely of concern. The thing is, it's a canary in the coal mine. I think the current administration in the U.S. government will not permit this to be right across the border. So, they know what they're doing, and they'll deal with Canada appropriately. But Canada is, it was funny. I heard a quote today of one of the American founding fathers said that if a country cannot be self-sufficient in of itself, like feed itself and do all the stuff it needs to do for itself, defend itself, then its sovereignty won't last long. And so the problem is that Canada right now is being squeezed by 2 major powers, China and the U.S. And a lot of Canadians who are mad at the U.S., they sort of personify growling at President Trump. Some of them even want to join the Europeans. And all of this is just barking madness, because the amount of trade that goes to any of these countries is a very small amount. So basically, Canada, whether it likes it or not, because by reason of its geography, its success or failure is linked to the United States. And so we don't want to make it too much about a political thing. But the problem is the United States is being is changing its focus from global to hemispheric, and it's officially changing it's what's in its policy papers and the like. And I suspect that will change. That will not change even if the change of administrations. So what that'll mean for a country like Canada is it's the United States will not permit it to be close to China. So, but yet they've made commitments, including security intelligence agreements with the Chinese government and Canada's own intelligence agency. And again, I encourage you, if you guys are interested in this, because it is so proximate to the U.S. and it's it tends to be like a canary in the coal mine. The Canadian Security Intelligence Agency has identified that a number of government officials are basically under the influence of the Chinese Communist Party, and but yet there's been no charges, not even revealing who it is. So, I mean, you can imagine if you're on the U.S. side looking at all this stuff, plus you see the censorship, plus you see them coming after the Bible, they're coming after online access. They want to be able to police people's internet use. They want to be able to suspend some people even being able to be allowed to access the internet. So this is like North Korea with less canine in the diet. We should have a little bell whenever I say something really politically correct like that.
That's right. I'll see if I can get that sound effect. I'll work on that.
Yeah. I don't know if no,
let me see.
I tried. Oh, wait, there's sort of a duck noise there.
Oh, I was going to say something about that too, Father. So I saw a video today and it's, what was this? Like, it's called like noetic law or something like that. This is like it's like it's based off of like the Talmud Mishnah or something like that. And it's 7 commandments. It's like 7 laws that Gentiles are meant to follow, right? The like again, this is according to like Talmud, stuff like that. But things like
Talmud, Felix.
No, we do not. We do not. But no. I'm bringing this up for a reason. Bear with me. I'm going somewhere with this.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So it's saying things like, like regular Gentiles, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not worship idols, thou shalt not, steal, some basic laws of humanity that for the Gentiles, if they follow these laws, that they would, that I guess that they find grace with God or something like that in a certain way, as a Gentile, even though they're not part of the race. But then,
that's interesting.
But here's the part though. When you get to idol worship, they view worshiping Jesus as idolatry.
True.
Okay, so by their standard, and this is what and this is what actually someone fact check me if I'm wrong, because this again I'm kind of repeating some of this secondhand. Okay, but apparently this is the first time that Congress kind of tried to ratify not a law but kind of promote this view here. It's the first time that there was any type of real religious anything that happened like that in Congress. I guess with the exception of the Constitution saying, God in it, or the Declaration of Independence. But this was like the first time that anything like that was any type of religious thing was like backed to that extreme. And I just, and I'm bringing this up because I think this connects with the C9. Like, this is where this is all going.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. So not, as Animal Farm, not the new movie, but the book said,
the real one. Yeah.
some animals are more equal than others. So this is my issue. Like, when you're not allowed to criticize a particular religion, that's,
yes.
You guys all should be able to criticize me and my faith, right? I may not enjoy it, but my reaction to it is if you give me points against me, I'm going to give you points back. Yeah. When people have to resort to laws that you're not allowed to criticize at all, then that's probably an indication that they're a false religion in many cases, right? Because they have no ability to back it up, so they have to use the power of the state. So if your argument is noble and you have nothing to hide, I have nothing to hide. So, people can criticize us all they want. I'll answer the points. And you know what? In fact, it's good in a way because that's how a listener to the outside, you have 2 people that agree to disagree, but they have like what I call a good fight. And what I mean by a good fight is you have a debate, but you stick to the facts. You don't attack the person. You don't attack their motivation. You don't attack their intelligence or their looks or all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And then you just attack it point by point, and then that's something that's actually interesting to be a spectator, and both sides learn, and you learn how to. So if you're a Christian apologist and you got a really smart, Muslim or Jewish guy or whatever, and he's throwing the stuff at you, and you can't really answer the great points he's making, well,
Yeah.
that means you go home and you learn that stuff, and then you steel man your presentation, right? So there's good that comes out of a respectful fight like that. The problem is with these laws, they're putting the finger on the scale. They're de facto saying that. So here's the thing about Bill C9. They're saying that the state religion, which is wokeism, which is postmodern leftism, that the state religion, oh, we're not religious, we don't have a yes, you do. You have your excommunications, you cancel people, you have your sacraments, the unaliving of unborn children, and the putting to sleep of the elderly, and you have and you suppress, you have your evangelization through state-funded media. So yes, it's a religion. And so C9 is the codification of a state religion, which is a godless one. And they even prohibit their what was 44. You may or may not know this, but the holy name is not allowed to be uttered at the cenotaph, which is the burial marker for the war dead. And you're not allowed to, and I ask my military chaplain friends, I call them or email them every year, and every year they ignore me. And I just say, is this going to be the year when you stand up and you just say the holy name? Just say it. Just say it do it boldly. What are they going to do? Fire you, court martial you? Do it.
For what? Right? Yeah, exactly.
Right. So I mean, sometimes the sword, my dad used to listen to me. I'd get going like I did in the monologue there. And my dad would say, son, you can only fall on your sword once. And I'd say, Dad, right. Sometimes you have to. And he'd sort of nod and say, yeah, you're right.
He just didn't want to argue with you.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. You know what?
He knows better.
I mean, there is a point to that. You got to pick the one moment. Am I gonna, what am I gonna die for? Like right. if he had that opportunity. So, yeah, I don't know. So by the way, they're called the Noahide laws, or the Noachian laws, or the 7 laws of Noah. They're a set of universal moral and legal obligations.
So I hope I don't offend any of you, or I got people freaking out when I say this, but I'm a big fan instead. Like I wouldn't even entertain that stuff with these guys. I would say, listen, if you want to appeal to a generic set of values that Christians and Jews and Stoics and Confucians and Buddhists can all agree on, like, and live in the society, it would be what we call the natural law tradition. The natural law tradition.
Yes.
So now, so if anybody gives you anything outside the natural law tradition, just politely tell them, I don't know what a clever, colorful word to tell people to go away and travel nicely, but you use whatever word you got to do. But tell them natural law tradition. So more Aristotle, and less Smoily or whatever his name is.
And again, just for anybody who has a question, I am not endorsing this in the slightest.
No, I don't think anybody thought you were. You were just asking.
Okay. Just double checking with the chat. You never know.
That's kind of like the the Muslim guide says, hey, we should just have all the food should be halal because then we can all just eat it. And it's like, no, I don't consent to that.
And I'll follow up with this. Yes.
I insist bacon be put on everything.
That's right. So, now, all right, it does say, yes, the United States government has officially referenced and recognized the 7 Noahide laws in federal legislation, though this support is often misunderstood in terms of its legal implications. So, yeah, this is, again, I'm all right. So,
yeah, well, you know crazy. What? This is probably smacks of Huckabee and Cruz religion to me, right? I don't.
It's I don't know. Devil.
I don't want to get too. I'll tell you what. We can return to this after we're done all the comments. I'm happy to talk about what everybody wants to, but boils down to, guys, as Westerners, we appeal to the natural law tradition if it's outside our own religions, okay? Because the natural law tradition is completely compatible with Christianity. It's referenced in Scripture where Paul mentions the law inscribed in everyone's heart, right? And then that's been developed by Christian philosophers and theologians over the years. But the thing is the great thing about the natural law is that is all the basic stuff. You don't kill the innocent. You don't steal other people's stuff. You respect laws and the like. So, I mean, that's all natural law tradition, and we don't have to worry about what some crazy fool of another religion thinks about us. That's just not. We don't take any other authority other than the law inscribed in our heart and that which our Lord God gave us, and then civil laws that are not contradictory. So you are bound, if you're baptized, you're bound to follow any civil law that does not command you to sin. So any reasonable civil law that does not command you to sin, you're basically bound. I'm simplifying it, but that's the general rule.
Yeah, totally. All right, now let's see. I just think this disconnects to that. I do want to revisit this. This is fascinating. When my wife and I left Portland, Oregon in 2020, says Norm, by the way, during the rise of BLM and Antifa, I noticed the police had held back from their role of authority, allowing much disorder and criminal activity.
Right. It's cutting the nose off to spite their face, isn't it, Norm? Like, I mean, when you think about it, the property damage they allowed to happen, these are people that pay their salaries. So it was kind of bad. And then the other thing, and actually I was in Oregon for, Norm and I probably lived in Oregon at the same time, but we didn't know one another. But I was a little south of about an hour and a half south of Portland.
Yeah,
But
right.
but yeah, I guess when did I leave? That's 2016 or 17 or something like that. But anyway, it's just sad. Like I hate to say it, but I'll tell you why. Okay, we're all products of our environment, right? And so I grew up in Canada, and one of the frustrating quirks of Canada that just drives me nuts is this fascination with pensionable time. Oh, it's all pensionable time. It's like this attitude. Oh, I'm going to finally live my life when I'm whatever retirement year. And so there's a couple problems with that. One is, you should enjoy the journey, right? Whatever age you're at, whether you're 90 or 20. But the second thing is that it was just this kind of attitude, like, well, I just have to keep my mouth shut so I don't put the pension at risk, right? And I just think that's horrible. And in particular, in law enforcement, where sometimes you're called to do the right thing, not necessarily the politically correct thing. So, and I have every admiration for, the good Novus Ordo priests in Belfast who are not silent, as I say that most of the church is, and also the the people that are the good police that would step in if they saw. I mean, what was really interesting? Some of you guys saw it too. Was the during some of these ICE protests, like watching the live feed YouTubes and stuff, like just the way people were interacting with one another and treating one another. The people that were getting harassed, their cameras broken and attacked and stuff, and it's all one side. It's all one side that's the aggressor here. So
that's right.
But I'm glad that it's all on tape because it's for the world to see. Like in this era, I'm not saying that non-leftists can't be violent. They can under certain circumstances, but by and large, all of the disorder, chaos, and pallets of bricks are not coming from the non-leftists.
Very true. Very true indeed.
Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. I remember seeing that. Like there was footage of these people walking in and these pallets of just bricks randomly
magically appearing.
But again, when the cops don't do anything, again, eventually, and you didn't see V for Vendetta, but anybody who's seen the movie, there's the scene where like the cops, they're in a totalitarian government and it gets so strict and so crazy, nobody's allowed to mention this character V. And but everyone is talking about it, and the little girl's wearing a mask, running around wearing it, and a cop shoots her. And you see the flip of the population, just like enough's enough.
Yeah.
And I 100% believe that is a possibility.
Look at what happens. Can you imagine? You couldn't script this, which is also rings an alarm bell, right? But you couldn't script this any better as far as timing. What happened to poor, like the way the news, Henry, and then now this guy in Belfast, and there's a lot more. And then people are going to bring up Southport and Telford and stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean,
the girls with the girls holding the axes, right, or whatever. The
little miss there. Yeah, they charged her too. I don't know whatever happened to her. I didn't see any
yes. I mean, how much more? How much more till they're literally the enemy too? You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's why people I'm pretty laid back about most stuff, but I'm pretty growly lately at all this because it's like, you guys, you run around. Like, I think COVID woke a lot of us up because they just basically said, well, we're going to do whatever we want. What are you going to do about it? Like, they didn't follow their own rules, and they tried to say it's an emergency. And that's why I'm waiting for them to trot out the aliens or another war or whatever. And then they're going to have some excuse not to follow the rules. And no, this whole Western government thing works from Magna Carta on to present. It works because there are certain things we all agree to do on each of our respective sides. And when we don't, when there's some sort of defilement there, then that has to be cleansed. And, like, for example, we won't even start on the California elections. Okay. But anyway, I'm just saying, you know what? I don't have to, because these idiots are just proving all of us right. So
again, and to even tie it back again, like, someone made a comment that kind of matches the sentiment, is that eventually it's coming to a point where we are not able to vote ourselves out of this mess.
That's already happened in California. So that's what they've proven. And so what happens next? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But what I do know is that, you can't, I mean, if an election isn't counted on the same day, right? And if you can just get a gym membership for $1, they have these gyms that just give memberships for $1 so you can go vote. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. They're making a farce, and yet they go on about democracy, whatever that is. It's nothing it's nothing like what I grew up knowing what that is. They just make it all up. But anyway, I don't want to get down in that rabbit hole.
It's two wolves and a sheep, right? It's two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner.
What's for dinner?
That's democracy right there.
Yep.
All right. Give me the republic, right? Now, my dad was in and out of jail my whole life, and even when the SWAT team came to our house, they got me out first.
Oh, God love you. Yeah, I didn't know you had that background.
Yeah, and I've heard tons of, and I had cops in my step family or whatnot, but that are good people, but oof.
Well, if the Canadian thing spreads, maybe we'll all be in jail together.
Well, we need the good ones to like really show up, and right. Most of them left.
They have to stand up. You're absolutely. That's just it. So it's not gonna. I was a little disappointed with the Ottawa police force. They didn't get a whistle. Well, actually, you know what? I shouldn't say that. There were. I mean, again, I get filtered news too, just like anybody else. So unless you have someone in the know. But when I think about it, yeah, they disciplined and or fired a few that spoke up against from within. But that's just it. Like, love or hate President Trump. He's putting a spotlight on a lot of this stuff.
And I remember what happened too, that during the BLM riots, the Summer of Love, a lot of good cops, and then of course the jab. Once what happened with the jab, a lot of good police officers, what you guys would consider good, and I would agree with you, are good police officers. Left. They retire out.
Yeah, I'd retire.
That's it. Yeah,
and you know what? All of us are proven right now too. I mean, there's some big age cohort study for cancer and stuff that's coming. There's a lot of data points in favor that we didn't do the right thing in 2020. But in hindsight, a lot of people, there was a few evil ones, but at the end of the day, people were just making decisions based on the best information they had at the time, and it's unfortunate. But we trust the powers that be to give us good information.
Yeah, and again, my mother took the jab against my advice, but coincidentally, in some weird way, developed stage 4 cancer within a few months. So
not an uncommon story, Felix.
Unfortunately, no. I definitely have my views that I cannot prove, but I almost know in my heart. In
our own little parish, 6 people that I know, and I warned them. I told everybody not to take it, and then there was a brief window that it was one of them, and I forget which one. I think it was Moderna or whatever, but there was one that said no, it's not a Bordeaux source. So I just said I recommend you don't take an experiment, but I'm not a medical professional, so talk to your medical professional. I'm just telling you, I'm not going near the thing. Like for me, if they have to change the definition of the word vaccine, it's probably an idea that maybe you shouldn't touch it, right?
Just
So
hang out. Yeah.
just hang out. We'll sit this one out. But not everybody
Yeah.
had the luxury of doing it, and especially if they wanted to see grandkids or travel or stuff like that. And
Or
so
get a
people
free
took the risk.
hamburger.
We had all those people ended up with what do you call it, myocarditis,
Myocarditis. Yeah.
and the two of them did that, and the rest of them had unexplained internal bleeding in the digestive system,
Yeah.
and they all died. So I mean, it's anecdotal, but it's like
It's anecdotal. Yeah.
that's 10 that was 10% of that particular community that was unalived by that, at least correlation, not causation.
Right. It's just
Yeah.
interesting. With my mother, it was they found massive blood clots in her legs and found the cancer. And again, this was like months, a couple of months, if that, like after she got the jab.
Right.
You know, and it you know, it's no one's gonna answer for that. Nobody's going to answer for, at least not on this world, I'll say. Not on this world. But let me see. The worst part of the stabbing is the Western man could not legally have that weapon. This is what I was quoting earlier. And the murderer could for religious reasons. We should
some of you guys will disagree with me, but I think every law-abiding adult should, there probably should be some baseline training, but everybody should be allowed to bear arms for self-defense.
Yeah,
that's my own personal opinion. You guys can have a different one. I know our Lord Jesus said, if you don't own a sword, sell your cloak and buy one.
Yeah, it is. People don't. Yeah, it's funny. It's like that's not hippie. That's not hippie Jesus that we've been taught all our lives for mostly.
Nope. And when and so the apostles were armed because elsewise, how would the high priest's ear got cut off?
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, Jesus had to stop them. It's like, no, not now. It's funny. He was like, no, this isn't
right.
This isn't it.
You know what? Because he had to be the innocent lamb, right?
Yeah.
And as he said, if he needed an army, he'll have legions at his command of angels. He doesn't need a bunch of guys with swords. The swords were there for them, for his other followers. But the thing is that we're not. That doesn't mean we never convert by the sword. Okay, that's never happens. That never should happen anyway. I'm not saying there's not some bad conquistador or a bad bishop out there that would say that, but we don't convert by the sword. But we certainly are obliged as baptized men to defend the innocent, and especially those of our families and of our parishes and those people under our care. So it's a duty. It's not just these people are, no, I think you shouldn't have any guns or no swords or no whatever. It's like, I don't think you understand what Christianity is about. Christianity is about, it also includes duty of care to your community. And that means in a dangerous era, it means you arm yourself. So not to say that some people haven't felt God call them to a pacifistic way. I mean, look at Saint Francis. He went to the Sultan's tent unarmed, and but he preached his conversion. He didn't preach dialogue. He went in expecting to be attempted martyrdom, right? So he didn't. That's like following like our Lord. But again, our Lord didn't expect all of us to follow his way, in the sense that someone has to protect the family, someone has to protect the women and children, and our own communities.
That's right. Let me see. Our Father Haygood says, by the time Henry Nowak was placed in cuffs, his hands were pale, and then you could hear they realized they messed up when the cop said his pupils aren't responding.
Right.
And again, it's like, if you're a Christian, let's say you were that officer, is it your duty to come out and say this was my fault, or or do you protect yourself, your identity?
It's not as simple as one person's fault here. I mean, I think one of the tragedies of this I think those police officers should lose their pensions at the least, and should face some sort of tribunal. But that said, it's not ultimately them. They're the instrument. They're the tool. They were following what they thought was what was expected of them. And but the reality of it is that their duty to duty to the people that they serve is greater than an administrative decree when it contradicts, right, with someone's right to life. And so the people that should be standing trial for treason against the people are these leftist politicians and bureaucrats, especially the bureaucrats. The politicians take a lot of the heat. They get on the news, they get all this stuff, but it's actually these people that have been in power 20, 30 years behind the scenes that are making these decisions and telling the politicians in their expert opinion they do this. Well, in some cases you can demonstrate they acted against the will, the best interest of the people. They have a duty of care. So it's like imagine this, okay? So a stockbroker, for example, he has what they call a fiduciary duty. So if you call your stockbroker and you say, I want to buy 1,000 shares of SpaceX,
right?
And the broker knows you're going to be putting in this order, and he puts in his own order first and then puts in your large order. Well, he benefits from the price going up from the movement of your order.
Yeah,
I should have used a smaller market cap stock as an example, but you get the idea. You're not allowed to put your order in before your customer. That would be called front running. So and also that's called a breach of fiduciary duty. What's a fiduciary responsibility? Fiduciary means that you have knowledge and access. You have a privilege of your office or situation that allows you to use that to advantage yourself over your client or person who relies on you. So there's laws in place that prevent that from happening or try to. So the thing is that I believe that politicians, so if you're a member of a board of directors, it's the same thing. You work for Disney, you have a choice. Oh, I can have a movie called Prancing Queen, or I can do another Indiana Jones movie and make it a non-woke. Right. Well, you owe a duty of care to your shareholders to make the non-woke movie. Right? You do Prancing Queen and it fails, then you've just blown a lot of money that wasn't yours, but you had a duty of care if you knew that it was going to be commercially unsuccessful, but you were just going to try to program people, then the shareholders, should have, recourse to you, including on your own personal wealth. Yeah. So because you breached your duty of care, you lose your protections that your office also protects you from individual liability. You lose that protection when you act against the shareholder interest. So, okay, let's extrapolate that to the clergy and the politicians and the bureaucrats. We will be held guilty before God, and we probably should before a civil tribunal, if it can demonstrate that we made our decisions contrary to the best interest of the people we have an oath to serve. Right. So if you're in a government or military position, it's very clear who you're supposed to serve. Am I supposed to serve the newcomer that just got off a boat and wants to sever heads? No. That's not where my care is. That's not who I work for. And all of these politicians who authorized the distribution of public funds to put these people up in hotels and pay them $3,000 or $4,000 a month while we have starving veterans and young people who can't afford a house and stuff like this. Guess what? I think their pension should be forfeit. They can get on the bread line and we will take their pension. So they're lucky I'm not an emperor or an advisor to an emperor, but all of these, I wouldn't put them in prison. I'd just take away their pensions. Right. Because that's what they live for. So we'll take them from you. You can hope that maybe your kids are successful and they'll take you in, or you can enjoy that bread line that you put other people on for the rest of your days. And that's justice. It's not even vengeance or anything. It is just
it's justice. It actually seems fair and actually lenient.
I wouldn't put any in prison. I wouldn't. I not except the ones who unleashed the plague. No, that's a different issue. But anyway, let's see what Norm is saying.
Norm says, on one train trip to work, a man was accosting a woman I worked with, and I and other fellow employees to guard this lack of security felt so wrong.
Yeah. Did you hear, Norm, about that airline it was a United Air flight and they had an attempted hijacking? The cockpit door was almost breached. Did that hit the news? You guys hear that, or is that just aviation? Yeah. So if you go on YouTube and just say United hijack or something, the reason why I didn't hit the mainstream. So I watch these aviation channels as sort of a hobby, but it just happened. And 2 weeks ago, and it probably didn't hit a lot of the news because the door wasn't breached. But there were, get a load of this. It should have been, the headline should have been "Stupid Hijacker Tries to Take Over Airplane," because there were 5 law enforcement on the plane. They were going to a conference and they subdued the guy. But apparently it took 5 of them. They had to settle him down.
That's wow.
But he was trying to break in. And so you can actually, if you go on the YouTube, you can hear the air traffic controller talking to the pilot. And they're saying, yeah, no, there's law enforcement. He's trying to do it, but we're going to do an emergency landing. And yeah, so there you go.
Wow. That's insane. Okay. All right. Let's see. Our Father Hagen said, honestly, the cowardice of modern man is going to be the collapse of society.
Yeah, I would say so, except as we were saying earlier, I think it will certainly on the if we were carrying on that track up until about 3 years ago, I would say, yeah, 100% agree. Now I'd say, no, I'm starting to think that some of the younger people, although some of it's misdirected zeal, I don't think they're going to take it anymore. There's a middle group, like I say, the generation under me that seems to be pretty indifferent, but the one before that, jeepers, if we could harness the energy of that, the church would be reborn, the Christianity would be on ascent, our nations would be sorted. The great young people, there's some really, I mean, there's some turkeys, but there's some really great young people that are waking up, and that's good.
Amen. Michael Mitcheff says, Archbishop deserves to be called Your Excellency more than any leader of the church I have ever known, and I am old.
Well, God bless you. Thank you. I hope I live up to that.
You know what? I couldn't agree more. I gotta be honest. This was you definitely deserve the title, as does Father Hagen, I believe. Who says I prefer Father? People get outrageous with the titles.
Well, yeah, and especially in our case, our church, it's relatively small, so it gets a little, the title sort of it fits the function, but it's like it's one of these things that we'll hope maybe we grow to have it match the title, I guess. But
right.
God wills it.
Let me see. Michael says, of course, I should have said Archbishop Meikle. But
yeah, that's it. And it's funny because I'll go by Father. I go like the little website. I still have to fix that front page, but it's just I'm just gonna I just use bishopmeikle.com and stuff like that, so it'll be kind of the brand, and then I colloquially go by Father, and like I say, just don't hey you is kind of rude unless it's like
yeah, right.
But other than that,
yeah, hey buddy, like no,
yeah,
don't do that, never do that. Let me see. Norm says the more that official authorities step back from their duty and responsibility, the more crazy, dangerous, and dangerously chaotic our city of Portland became.
Yeah, Portland is such a beautiful, beautiful city. I just, I almost moved there, Norm. Actually, praise God, I didn't, and I would have moved there around 2017 era, and but yeah, it really went downhill since, and it's such a shame because it's such a beautiful city, and artsy and whatever. But I mean, I didn't mind it. I found people of like mind, and it was good. Pre-Cape Brown, Oregon was a beautiful place, and unfortunately, it seems to have gone downhill. But Charlotte, okay, yeah, you were
Charlotte, yeah. The subway lady, it was one of the Carolinas. I knew it.
Yeah, that was a heartbreak. That Cynthia, that's just it. I mean, what was sad is that all the people there just sort of let it happen. And
yeah, I feel like we didn't ever. We don't even have closure on that story, do we? Like what?
No, you're right. I mean, they originally said he wasn't fit, and then there was an appeal, and then now he is standing. He's fit, and they're basically calling for execution in that case. So. It's
we'll see. Yeah, we can hope.
It's kind of rough. I got people wound. I think a couple weeks ago, or was it last week or the week before? It's all one big long day. But excuse me, I told I just pointed out, people that are against the death penalty in Christian tradition. Let's put it this way: the good thief is on the cross next to our Lord, right?
Yeah.
And what did he say to the other thief? He says, we deserve this. He didn't say we didn't deserve to. There shouldn't be death penalty. He said, no, we deserve this. We deserve to die. And then he says, Jesus, remember me when you come into my kingdom. This day you will be with me in paradise. Isn't that a beautiful story? But here's the
Yeah,
thing:
gives me
which
hope.
is more likely? If you have a criminal who isn't very godly and is going to fall off the wagon all the time, off against the faith, and that person is laser focused into addressing his own eternity, and he has the opportunity to have his confession heard, and he dies right after, which is more likely, that he goes to heaven there, or you just leave him to fester for 30 years and with no God and no confession and no, you see what I'm saying? It's more
Yeah,
merciful. And also the state should not be funding this. It's, and also
yeah.
protection wise too. It's not, it depends on the case, and legitimate cases of mental illness and stuff. Again, you want to have certain compassion, but
Well, even
it's a
worse,
complicated issue.
even
What's that?
worse is like the overturned. There are people that were there. They're like, oh, actually, oops. We found it. We left the evidence on the underneath the
Oh, you
the
mean like
bottom
false
drawer.
accusations? Yeah,
Yeah,
so
and they
that's
get
often the argument. That's off the argument against it, and I mean that's you think, and I mean I'm not an expert in this area per se, but it's there's something called a functional MRI, and there's still some research to see whether they make basically a better kind of lie detector, but if we could advance that technology to the point where we wouldn't even need witness testimony. It could just be a brain scan, and you could even find intent and stuff like that, hypothetically, if that science advanced. But I'd rather, there's a there's a lot of people, unfortunately, that have been railroaded who are innocent, and so there is an argument for that. But it just seems to me like, if I get falsely accused and I had a choice between life in prison or you got 1 year to hopefully for your appeal and then you're done, I'd take the
right.
year. Go in God's good favor, and it just but you want to do what God wants, and maybe he'd want you in prison for 30 years to evangelize. I don't know. It's a good question. But
Yeah.
you can say, like, you guys can say that you're personally against the death penalty. There's no problem with that. The problem is that when you say that the death penalty cannot be used morally, and that's the problem that Francis and Leo do. So that's wrong, because if that's the case, then the church has been wrong for 2,000 years, in which case, why would you listen to them now? So it's a square circle, right? Like they're really self-refuting. Modernists are self-refuting. They can't help themselves.
And Father Ego says the people of Charlotte, North Carolina, are conscientiously disobeying their bishops, and I love it, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and yeah, I am too. I'm glad to see Charlotte has some hope of, it has to be standing out. That Bishop Martin's anyway, he's a real gift to something, that's for sure.
Father Ego says it's not a religion, it's a political ideology dancing around.
Yes, so that's a very good point that Father's mentioned with regard to that religion of peace, that it's not really a religion at all. It's a political ideology with the trappings of religion. That's true. There's a difference. So there's a difference between having a religion which is about understanding of God, and understanding of what church is, and understanding what sacrament is, and that kind of thing. And then, as a consequence of that, having a social order that's derivative. Okay, so like the social kingship of Christ the King. That's a very different flowchart than having a political ideology of submission and then appealing to at least two, if not three, other religions to form a theology that gives its trappings. So that's essentially why Monsignor says that, and I agree with him.
All right, let me see here. What was 44 says there is no again. Yeah, there is no political solution. We're not voting ourselves out of this.
I would say, one of the things, okay, some of you guys are like far more historically knowledgeable about America's founding than I am. I love history, but again, there's certain areas of history I know better than others. But one of the things that, as I understand it, when the U.S. was founded, they researched every form of government that they could get a hold of with regard to the library, right? So they studied everything from Greeks and Romans and the different monarchies.
Magna Carta.
They did everything, right? Everything. And then so what happened was they made the best, and I think America can definitely say that it is the best iteration of a democratic republic, or a republic with democratic elements, whatever you want to call it, that's ever been made. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That said, if I could suggest, if there's ever a redo of the Constitution or whatever, I would say you should have built in some form of regular convention every 50 years or something, like a convention of states, some sort of mechanism by which you can adapt the document, at least the interpretation of the document, because in a formal way. I mean, I suppose the bad guys could hijack something.
I wouldn't recommend that at all. But I mean, it's happening anyway. With like you mentioned this all the time. You change the language, you can now change what the Constitution says.
So
you know what I mean?
What I'm getting at is you're probably familiar. There's a group called the Convention of States movement. It's been around for years. I mean, at least 10, 15 years.
What is this? So people can just drop out, right? If they can elect out.
No. There's a mechanism, and again, some of you are more politically savvy than me, but there's a mechanism in the Constitution that there's two means of amending the Constitution. One of them is through you need so many states representing, that kind of thing, and then there's the other means is what they call a convention of states. And again, I don't know how many have to agree to convene it and vote on it and whatever. But I know that there's a second mechanism, and it's never been used. But there's a nonprofit organization, more than one, that tries. They want a constitutional amendment. Now, originally it came out during the Tea Party. Remember that? Remember the old Tea Party?
Oh,
and remember the Tea Party had one platform, or basically balanced budget. That's all they wanted.
Budget.
And for that, they were called racist and all these things. And they just wanted a balanced budget. I didn't know that a balanced budget's racist. But anyway, when you think about it, it's kind of a racist thing to say. What you're saying that only white people like balanced budgets, that's racist. But anyway. So, no, but anyway, the joking aside, and it never really got traction. But one of the fears, the counterpoints to Felix's point was, are you sure you want to do this? Because you just want to put that balanced budget thing in there. But, someone's going to slip. There's 42 genders or something like that. And there's going to be a big fight. So, I mean, there's a certain merit to keeping things kind of sealed. But the other thing is that there's just too much weaselry going on, but with the changing definitions and the like. And then you're pretty well at the mercy of the courts, whoever gets in there.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
So, case in point. If you say you have an independent judiciary, then why do we say Obama appointed judge or a Trump appointed judge? Or see, if we all kind of know that that's not really true, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be saying. So we have the ideal, but then we have the de facto. So it is kind of hard.
Yeah. All right. Now, Cynthia, this doesn't make sense to me because this was like 45 minutes ago. So I apologize. But she says the four horsemen, the colors of the Palestinian flag, World War III.
I don't know what we were talking about.
I'm not gonna. Yeah. Now, okay, but the four horsemen, the colors of the Palestinian. Oh, wait a minute. Let's think about it. Right? Wait, what color are the horsemen, Father? Right? There's a white one. There's a pale one. I mean, there's a pale one and a white one, right? And is there a red horse?
Yeah,
no.
Yeah. So I don't know either. No. What I'm saying is I would say that. I don't. Okay, so this is a big issue because in Muslim eschatology, so there's difference between the Sunni and the Shia.
Okay.
And there's like 20 different Muslim groups, but those are the two major groups. Now, Iran believes that they wanted to provoke. Now, how we know this is that right after 9/11. This Ahmadinejad, if you look him up, President Ahmadinejad's address to the UN, he gets up there and he basically says, as Cynthia says, like, well, I mean, someone's reading into the Palestinian flag on that, but his basic argument was that they were going to provoke a war, and from what I implied, at least, or remember, it was basically going to be a nuke one. And that it was going to summon their equivalent of a Messiah, the Mahdi or something like that. And again, I'm not an expert in Islam stuff. But it was my understanding, and that this was a necessary part of their apocalypse, similar to Huckabee and Cruz wanting the temple rebuilt. Now, if you ask me, what that, the abomination of desolation and the defilement of a future temple is, it's John Lateran or St. Peter's. I don't think it's in Jerusalem at all. So, I mean, we can agree to disagree. It's not a de fide aspect of faith, folks. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing we can all disagree. Cynthia might be right. That, I mean, that's or at least her question. But well, that's not in any traditional Catholic stuff. We think that the new Israel is the baptized, and that the defilement would be in Rome. So we don't even care about what Huckabee and Cruz are going on about.
Right,
that's a 200-year-old religion as far as we're concerned. All this stuff that's going on in the Middle East, no, it's not our time yet until and then Our Lady of La Salette says that Rome will fall and become the seat of the Antichrist. So that's not very happy, Bunny, is it?
Yeah, right.
So we would center. I would think it's going to center around. A lot say, of course, the beast with the 10 horns is the EU and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's interesting to try to look at it, but we may be looking at. I mean, the end times could start day after tomorrow, or it could start 200 years. So it'll be kind of neat to see how this all plays out. But Europe might not even be much of a consideration in even 50 years. So it's kind of interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it turns out. Well, they're demographically they're toast, right? So is it Europe anymore in another 100 years at least? So I think it'll be interesting to see whether Russia implodes or grows. So you'll have Russia, the Americas, and the Asians, which is not necessarily going to be China. China's got a nasty demographic problem too. India will probably take China's place at some point. So the question is, are we going to end up with a shootout before that happens?
Right.
I don't know. It's the demographics are going to influence economy and this military stuff as much as any of our, politics or what have you.
That's right. All right, now let's see. Father Higgins says, at least in Florida, the law enforcement will do their best within the bounds of the law to arrest those who deserve it and to figure out the best solution for everyone. Yeah.
Yep, and you can see that on, again, thank goodness for police cams. They produce all kinds of, there's all kinds of videos you can see of different Florida seems, a lot of those videos seem to be based in Florida. Some of them are pretty funny. Like I saw one in Florida, I think it was in Orlando. The police having to deal with this crazy woman in the store, and she refused to leave because she wanted her discount. So she caused a great big scene, and they kind of holler.
It's insane. It is insane. Like the levels of entitlement, and again, this is like the fault. This is such a big thing with living in the city. I'm so glad I left the city, but this is it's a prevailing mindset among a lot of people. It just doesn't go to that extreme.
I wonder too, Felix, how much. I mean, it's a topic for another night, but I do wonder if people haven't been influenced by this so-called reality television, like they almost tried it. Like the poor cops are not there for their props, right?
Yeah. So some of them just want to go viral. I mean, maybe there's some of that, but I do think a lot of people just feel entitled. And again, like with this thing with Carmelo Anthony, just race relations in general, the pool has been soured, like, and just poisoned or whatever. I'm mixing.
Well, I think it depends. So urban and rural, like, are different environments to have sort of this intercultural dialogue. And then the other thing is different states. So I've had no problem with any other group in Florida.
Same here.
Everybody's wonderful here.
I'm really talking
and
about
I never had any trouble in Oregon. But I get the idea. I walked into a restaurant in DC once years ago. And I walked in, I didn't realize, because I'm culturally stupid, right? So I walk in, and I walked into a McDonald's or Burger King or something like that. And the whole restaurant stopped and looked at me. I'm like, what the heck is this, right? Where I grew up, none of this. And so anyway, I just ignored it because I'm me. And I just go to the front thing, go to the front desk and
we get a
order
Whopper.
my meal. And as soon as I spoke, everybody was fine. Oh, you're not from here. You're from, and they were fine. But apparently, if I was from that city, like as a tourist, I was welcome. But if I was from that city, and I've seen that in Quebec. So if you go to say Edmonton, New Brunswick, if you're driving through, and to be courteous, you speak some French, right? Well, if you speak French like me, it's pretty bad. Like I can understand it fairly well, but my pronunciation is pretty bad. So, but they're appreciative. It's like, basically it's like you did us a respect or a courtesy, trying to speak to us, and they try not to laugh at you too badly, and there you go. And then you go across the border, and then you're dealing with the Quebecois. And then again, not all Quebecers are the same, by the way. I have some very dear friends who are Quebecers that I knew in the military. But the general stuff, you go there, the hotel or whatever, and you try the same courtesy. Oh, you big dog, you're hurting my ears. Let's just speak in English. What? So I have to listen to you speak bad English, but you don't want to speak listen to me speak. That's fine. But anyway, no, but it's
right.
What I'm saying is that if an American came up and spoke to the Quebecer in French, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you're a visitor, they give you a pass, right? So it's the same kind of thing. It was the same kind of thing in DC in the 90s. I don't know what it is now. I have no idea. Maybe if I went in with a collar on, it wouldn't matter. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, I guess there is something to be said about being a good host, but also about being a good guest, right?
Yeah, in both cases.
In both cases. Yeah.
I just what I made is sort of a thesis statement is that I'm not sure that every culture. That doesn't mean there's not exceptions.
Yeah.
I mean, I have religion of the religion of peace. I have several acquaintances, right, that I still maintain contact with. But the thing is, why can we still be friends? Well, because they're not very devout, right? Like if they were devout, if they viewed their religion like I view mine, we wouldn't be.
It wouldn't work. Yeah.
Like,
there's hope.
Right.
There's hope.
There you go.
Yeah, Father Haga says, as a lifelong equestrian, you can't blame the horse for the rider's misguidance, and that's what happened.
Absolutely.
What was this in regards to?
Well, I mean, I think he was referring to when we were talking about the police policy and everything, right?
Oh, yeah, true. All right. And he says it's the Noahide laws for Gentiles in the Torah. See, okay, yes. So it's the Torah, not the Talmud.
Right.
There
we go.
He says it's not the Talmud. Okay, that's my mistake. But thank you, Father Haggard. I appreciate the correction. Let me see. There used to be a couple. Norm says there used to be a couple of police on horses in downtown who really commanded respect and honor in the way they interacted with citizens and children. As sanity left, they were sadly taken out of service.
So that's in Portland, I assume Norm's meaning. Horses are excellent crowd control animals, and if they're well trained, they don't hurt anybody. And I mean, I imagine it's a bit of a pain in the butt. Yeah,
it's
and
cool
I mean,
to see.
It gives the police, a job to kind of look forward to if they can sort of hope to get appointed to the unit or something too. That's if they like horses. So yeah, but they are expensive, and there's some issues with a working dog, working horse. I mean, I imagine it's harder life on them than just hanging out in the farm. So it was pretty nasty in Canada there. They ran over that woman. I'm sure the video is still on YouTube, or it's on Rumble if it's not on YouTube.
Yeah. All right, now let me see here. Father Haygood says, I need to go down that rabbit hole, Felix, before I could comment. Oh, Father Haygood, it is definitely a rabbit hole. And I've gone down other versions of the rabbit hole, I shall say, but which has kind of definitely changed my worldview. Let me just say, like, I remember when I first returned to, like, when I became a Protestant, right? This was like forever ago, like 2000s, early 2000s. Yeah, I had much different worldview, with certain allies and whatnot. So it's insane.
Most definitely.
Father Haga says, when my neurologist from over 20 years ago called me and said, "Do not take the jab," and it ended up causing over 300 people to develop was a Guillain-Barre syndrome.
Well, okay. So this is awesome that Monsignor shares this because he had a doctor who cared about him. So that's good, and
That's right.
they're worth your weight in gold. And man, there's some excellent doctors, and there's
Most
some
of them are probably 90.
too. Well, it's like clergy. I kind of like the medical profession is similar to clergy in the sense that there's the turkey does not mean everybody's like that, and if you both doctors and clergy share the same thing, that it's a little lament that maybe our professions could do a little better at policing our own, like or sorting out professionally, developing the ones that are weaker. So
that's right. It was the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I think that's what you were talking about when
there was one, yeah. There was one that was actually, I think Monsignor's right again.
Yeah.
There was one that was not sourced, or at least they said it was, but I'm sure. I think it was. Well, wait a second. I think the Johnson Johnson one was the one that actually wasn't sourced, if I remember correct, from the abortive stuff. And then but there was
From
one that said that they weren't from abortive fetal abortive cells.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
there was one. It was Moderna or Pfizer. I forget which one, but one of them said that they weren't, but they were, and then
they were. That's right.
I don't remember the timeline, but I remember there was like a 1 week window where I said, "Hey, I guess we'll just check on the make and we'll, stay away."
And this wasn't a slip up. This was intentional so that people would take that jab.
Yeah, I agree. And they waited until the church told them to. Like Francis said, it was a great act of love, right?
Oh man, yeah, that's right. That's right. And what? I mean, looking at it from just where are we? 5 years later?
Yep.
Even like I can only imagine how we're gonna look at this period in 15 years, 20 years. Looking back at that because just even looking back, it's like, wow, what these people got away with. Insane. This is more to your point. All right, now let me see. Father Hagen says I can't have a flu shot either. Same. But there's no point, in my opinion. I think that's one of the dumbest things to get because you're going to get the shot and then you're going to catch the flu within 2 days as a result. Has that ever happened, Father?
You know what, flu? I've got these friends that are nurses that would fight with me. You can't catch the flu from a flu shot. I have never had one where I'm not sick for 3 weeks. And I don't normally get sick. I mean, I had a rough year last year for whatever reason. I think I stopped taking my vitamin D, but the thing is, I normally don't get colds. And then every time I take the flu shot, because I sometimes had to. I was in the military for a while and this kind of thing, and I'd get deathly sick and I'd be out of action for 3 weeks. So and maybe it's the preservative. Maybe it has nothing to do with. I don't know what reaction it was. I don't know what the nature of the sickness was, but it felt like flu.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's like I've never had a flu shot. Like it never made sense to me. And again, it was like I remember having this argument even with the jab, like because I got really, really sick before COVID even was a thing. Like literally, like I think I've told you, I was like, I wonder if I caught like a super early version of it. So it doesn't make sense because it doesn't line up with the timeline of what everything happened. But
I had something similar. Maybe we even had the same one because
the same bug.
2 weeks before 2 weeks, I had a flu that was unlike anything I've ever had, and it created it was a breathing issue.
Yes,
and but it went away, and I was fine, and I never had a problem again.
I had to go to the ER, and my lungs were at 30% capacity. It was that bad.
You're lucky you made it through that.
I'm lucky I decided to go because sometimes I'm like I could tough it out, and then at one point I was like I gotta go. But my immune system got really strong after that. Clearly, you know what I mean. Once I was healed from that, at least that was my mentality. So when they were like jab this, jab that, I'm like, no, I'm good because I wasn't, I didn't get sick when the outbreak happened. I was like, I'm fine. I'm not doing it. I'd rather
Well,
get sick then and fight through it, and then
I
that would be my
I was
immunity.
I was never a fan of any kind of medication that could be avoided or just dealt with rest. And then when the COVID thing happened, now I find I'm a little bit less trusting of all this stuff, unless it's an older use. Unless it's been in use for 20 years, I'm like, I don't know. But I mean, I have a friend who's a doctor that I'd run it by now, and I'd just say, you know,
Yeah.
I trust them. Well,
And
hello, Brennan. How are you?
salve.
Well,
Yeah, amen.
now
Thank you, Brennan.
you know what Brennan's saying, Felix. You know what that
Salve?
means? Yeah.
I mean, doesn't that mean save?
Nope. Means basically hail. Hello
Oh, hail, hail,
in
hail.
Latin.
Okay. All right, I'm saying in Spanish.
Well, that's
Hail.
why I asked, because I figured you might.
Yeah, but
Good
I thought
night
that
there,
was ave.
Monsignor.
Is salve like a masculine and ave is feminine? Is
No,
that
no, it's
the
just another
case?
way of saying
Okay.
it. It's
Oh,
like
salve
if
and
I saw
ave
you, I
are.
say, "Hey, Felix," versus "Hello, Felix," or "Hi, Felix," right?
Oh, how
Salve
art
and
thou?
Ave are the same.
Right. Um. Good night, Father Hagen. He says he's headed to bed. We only got
Yep,
two comments left.
good idea.
Michael Mitchell says, as a physician, I 100% agree. We need to do a much better job policing our own.
Well, yeah. See, identical as clergy, and the problem is that and we all, like police or another, right, lawyers, we all kind of like to, we want to protect the integrity of the profession. So, but the problem is that it's this question: do you expose the bad guy and have egg on all our faces, or heaven forbid, you let him go on, and then who does he hurt?
Right.
Right. So
Now, I'll tell you what, like, I was, again, a lot of like the good stories for police officers or whatever are things that I've heard secondhand or seen secondhand, like, that were detached from me.
right.
But as far as physicians and doctors, almost every single experience I've had with them has been wonderful too. Just straight, like, I mean, I can only speak anecdotally on my personal experience, but whenever I've been sick, had to go just get admitted or anything like that, I pray for my doctors and nurses anytime, like, and I go in ER style, and I have to end up paying afterwards, but it's, I've never had a bad experience. Never.
Well,
Like, thank God for that.
there's a certain thing too. If everybody has a certain level of moral frame, then everything works better and it works cheaper and everything too. Because when you think about it, some of the expenses of healthcare are due to the insurances, and some of the expenses of the insurances are due to, you know, claims, some of them false, of malpractice or this or that or the other thing. And so some of the bad guys get away with their shenanigans, and some of the good guys are getting nailed with these lawsuits, and then the insurance just settles it, and then it's just, but then the guy's name isn't really clear, and then it's all, it's one thing after another. And so yeah, it's just kind of it's kind of a mess, Felix. Like in my day, your family doctor was also sort of part of your family.
Come on.
The doctor I
Right.
grew up with, 3 generations. He took care of 3 generations of my family.
Yeah.
And so that's so there was a trust and rapport, and we were actually, my doctor lived diagonally from my house, and so it was kind of
Oh,
neat. So I mean, but like I say, 3 generations of my family, and
yeah.
it was neat. And he could set a bone, deliver a baby, probably amputate a leg if he had to. I mean, and it was a different mode, because as I grew older, then not every doctor, but there's some. It's just everything's pills.
Just saw a
Everything,
shift.
yeah. There was some sort of shift. You used to go to a doctor in the mentality of the people for a cure, right? And then some things couldn't be cured, so you'd be managed. But now the attitude seems, and again, it's not picking on the doctors. It's a more complicated thing than that. But it's the same with the clergy, really, right? It's like,
Yeah.
you used to go to a priest to be a doctor of souls of some form, and trust them with some, certain dilemmas that you might face with honoring God, but also your duties on earth and all that kind of stuff. And somewhere along the line, the priest just started saying, "I don't worry about it," and they're just basically there to affirm. sort of medicate, spiritually medicate. So see, the poor doctors and the priests have gone through the same malaise since the 60s.
Yeah. Now, you're gonna laugh at this. So he said, Michael says, you really can't get the flu from a flu shot, but if you were exposed to the flu, it often takes a week or two to develop the illness called the incubation period.
Yeah, you know what I think? I think I'm allergic to one of the preservatives or something. Or I don't know whether it's allergic is the right medical term for the reaction.
I think
But
Michael's lying. No, I'm just kidding. I do not.
No,
think
no,
that.
he's not joking.
No. I'm 100%
Don't be
joking,
getting him
Michael.
at it. He knows where you sit in church.
That's right. He's gonna come get me. Yeah, right.
But anyway, no. Well, I'll just tell you, that no other shot bothers me. Well, the only other one I didn't like. So I think I've had 3 tetanus shots in my life, and only there was one reaction, and it was, I don't know what, it just hurt a lot. But I guess that's normal. It's not, it was nothing. But the other 2 times it didn't hurt at all, and there was no residual effect. But the flu shot, something always goes wrong. I'm always sick.
Yeah, but I mean, like, all right. So this is where I push. I do have a question back about. Well, then, if you were exposed to the flu, then wouldn't that flu shot?
No, it's a dead virus. Well, I'll let Dr. Meikle answer, but the thing is that my understanding is that the virus isn't active. So it's basically teaching your cells, and again, Dr. Meikle, correct me, but my understanding is it's basically to simply, it's like it's teaching the cells what to the white blood cells what to attack. If I'm not
what to attack,
mistaken.
Right? It's a weaker form it's a weaker form, and it's supposed. Yeah, no, I understand the basics.
Yeah, sort of like a roadmap, or it's not the actual disease.
It's training. It's like kung fu training for the cells. That's always how I imagine it.
Not active disease. but yeah. So I mean, there's nothing. That's just it. There's nothing in it that should make you sick. So what's going on? Because I'm not the only person that happens to. Is it just in my head? But I'm not. I'm not the kind of
coincidental and anecdotal. But I mean, there's a maybe. But
well, it happened just once, I would say. But it happened more than once. So it's now. Well, like I say, I see when you're in the military, you're like a pincushion. So they.
Oh yeah, the first week.
Every shot.
I remember that. Yeah.
But the flu shot was always done separate. It was always done sort of seasonally.
Yeah. And I've never taken it even there. Now, I was lucky. Like, I think it was like either enacted it before or after, but I avoided the anthrax vaccine because I don't know if you remember that. That was kind of a nightmare too when that was
I never took it.
That was dropped. I never took it either. I somehow dodged that bullet. So that
was
we were
never required. We were never required anthrax. Not unless you were going. Well, I don't now that I think of it. There were certain schedules you'd have to take extra vaccines with certain kinds of deployments and assignments, but I never had that.
Well, that was.
I used to keep I had a little book. I still have it somewhere, but it's like a well, it's a book of your vaccination record, and I used to keep everything up to date. But yeah, like I say, I avoided the flu one, and then when the COVID stuff came, I was like, Well, it'd be interesting to see because whether the science, like this whole mRNA stuff, will, my understanding is that as it evolves, it's probably going to be a miracle medicine. But the question is, did they let it loose too soon? Right. So I'm not against the advancement of science or medicine, but as we talked about one time, then there's the Elon Musk effect, right? There's a big difference between installing a Neuralink chip to restore sight to the blind or hearing to the deaf or mobility to the paraplegic. It's quite another thing to stick it in there so you answer Jeopardy questions better.
Right. Amen. All right. So yeah. Well, Father, like I said, that was the last comment. I don't know.
Excellent. Well, guys, we're actually wrapping up more or less on time, or just a little bit over. So we'll end with a prayer, and I thank you very, very much for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed our little banter and monologue. I didn't get I was expecting I might get a little bit more pushback on my little rant there, but that's I was trying to stir the pot a little bit.
I know, right? We're preaching to the converted.
Yeah, I think that's probably it. If anyone was going to hang around till question time, they were going to likely agree with us on most of it. Alrighty, in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost, amen. God, our Father, creator of all things, we praise and thank you for your gifts. We ask you to bless each of us. Always incline our heart to divine holy will. Help us to be bearers of your mercy and your love, not in a fluffy sense, but in a charitable sense, to a world that less and less believes. Help us to awaken the baptized men and women of the world to embrace their baptismal duty and restore all things to Christ. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost, amen. I will see some of you on Sunday and the rest of you next week online. God bless you.
Oh, God bless you, everybody. Have